Okay, I have my title, I have my number of hunters, my access titles, my date of license checks. I have it set up. I have a good scale. You're going to continue with the rest of this. The only other thing that we need to put on here is a key or a legend. So when you make your graph, you're not allowed to just color one color, color the other another color. They need to be uncolored, because remember we said we couldn't use anything other than pencil. But you still need to be able to distinguish between which one's outlaw and which one is legal. Now you're not going to write that in each of the little boxes because that would be silly. What you want to do is you want to pick a design like slanted lines or horizontal lines, although that one can be kind of confusing, or shading or circles or something to distinguish between the two. I will say shading is difficult if you're using a mechanical pencil like this, because when I ask you to shade, I want it perfect. I don't want like this. Okay, this is ugly shading. This is going to get you points taken off. We want it to be perfect, uniform, no, it needs to look like a solid bar if you're going to shade. I haven't practiced shading in a while, so that's kind of bad shading right there. However, I can make it look better than that if I really wanted. But nobody has time for that. So the easiest thing to do is make a design. I like slanted lines because they're fairly easy. However, you want your lines to be pretty and perfect. I'm going to shade the outlaw hunters because there's less of them and I don't want to work that hard. So I'm going to shade the smaller amount or put my design on it. So I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going to draw my shaded line. Now you can see a difference between my legal and my outlaw. And I'm going to do that for all of them. Me personally, I want to keep my lines at the same angle. So I am going to put one of my shade lines for every dark line in my graph or on my graph paper. You don't have to, but you want, like we said in the PowerPoint, you want these to be as perfect as possible. So the more uniform and more exact you can get it, the better off you're going to be. So now when you look at my graph, it's much easier to see what you're looking at. It's much easier to tell a difference between the two bars. The last thing that we'll do is we'll come over to the side here and we will make a key. It doesn't have to be huge. I'm going to do little 3x3 boxes for each of my types of hunters. And like I keep saying, you want these to be perfect. So use a ruler on literally the whole thing. So just plain is going to be legal hunters. And the one that is shaded is going to be outlaw. Outlaw hunters. I'm going to erase this line right here because that's ugly and I don't want to turn that in. Then lastly, I am going to draw a box around it and label it my key. erase these lines that I don't need. And that's how I set up my graph. As long as I continue along and I get my data correct, and since you're being precise, it will be very easy for you. As long as I do that, when I turn these in, I'm going to get a good grade.